Civil War in the Making from 1815 to 1860 by Avery, Craven, Craven. Introduction. 100 years ago, meaning 1858, the American people were living in an atmosphere of tension, suspicion, and fear produced by a power struggle between two competing ideologies. It was a situation that had grown up during the past decade or more and had become so much a part of men's lives that they accepted it as almost a normal condition. Now and then some unusual development deepened their apprehensions, but by 1858 they were going about their everyday affairs with little realization that they were on the brink of the passage from a Cold War to open conflict. True, in the Congress, where their representatives met and personalities clashed and harsh words were passed, there had been a rapid degeneration of understanding and cooperation. Newspaper editors in both sections had added something to the situation by reporting only the unpleasant things said and done. But on the whole, the life of most common men moved along complacently in accustomed ways, so that they were only slightly conscious of the fact that emotions and grievances were piling up to the point where drifting was no longer possible, and where some event would overtopple the accumulation. Then, to make matters worse, just exactly 100 years ago, in 1858, an economic recession set in to contribute a strange setting for events and to add a part to men's already uncertain attitudes. A few far-sighted individuals, sensing the danger, began to talk of a summit conference to face and settle all differences, but that move was delayed until too late, and when the conference did meet in Washington, war was already at hand. Now history may or may not have lessons to teach the present. I would not care to argue the matter, but I am certain that the present is the only point from which we can view the past. That is why I have chosen the theme about which these chapters turn. Chapter 1: The Republican Party and Slavery. The election of Abraham Lincoln as President of the United States in 1860 precipitated the secession movement in the Southern states. With South Carolina leading the way, 10 other states seemingly reached the conclusion that further connection with the North meant the destruction of their existing social economic order. They viewed it as a case of submission or secession. Yet historians agree that Abraham Lincoln was a man of moderate old Henry Clay Whig views, who had on various occasions gone out of his way to assure the Southern people that he would in no way interfere with their existing institutions. He had stated bluntly that, were he given all power, he would not know what to do about slavery. Even Alexander H. Stephens had said that Lincoln was just as good, safe, and sound a man as Mr. Buchanan, and would administer the government as far as he was individually concerned, just as safely for the South, and as honestly and faithfully in every particular. Historians have further noted that, with the Congress and courts opposed to him and his principles, Lincoln would have been powerless to do harm, that businessmen were everywhere against further secessional strife, and that the abolitionists viewed the Republican Party as temporizing, compromising, and unworthy of being trusted with anti-slavery interests. Professor Arthur Cole has even accused the secessionists of being moved by abstractions, not realities. The most thoroughgoing champion of Southern rights, he says, seldom even hinted that they saw specific dangers looming over the horizon. With these facts in mind, one may reasonably ask whether Southern fears were justified and whether secession was a rational move. Were Southern social, economic institutions actually threatened? Was slavery in danger? Or had men's emotions just run away with reason and their leadership proven inadequate? The answers which historians have given to these questions vary widely. James Ford Rhodes and Charles Francis Adams both say that the alleged grievances of the South were mere abstractions. Both talk of repeated Northern submissions to the arrogant demands of the South. Professor Cole thinks, as did the late Charles Sydnor, that Southern action was the product of an inferiority complex. The section had become a permanent minority in its sensitive pride in grasping for defensive mechanisms, preferred sublimated abstractions to realities. Professor Alan Nevins seems to imply that the South was tricked into hasty action by its leaders. As he put it, the heavy responsibility for the failure of America in this period rests with the Southern leadership, which lacked imagination, ability, and courage. Professor Roy Nichols merely says that Southerners, in a state of hyper-emotion, moved by pride, self-interest, a sense of honor, and fear, rushed to action. They were numerous enough and effective enough to force secession. With attention fixed on events as they developed in secession days, there is evidence to support each or all of these views. The proud Southerner had undoubtedly become oversensitive as he saw his section have become a permanent minority. His sectional leadership was, indeed, as futile in giving sound direction as was that of the North. Yet can the matter of Southern fears and action be judged simply by the immediate situation? Did men act only because of Lincoln's election? Or must we seek the real reason for Southern reactions through a clearer understanding of the region in which the Republican Party itself was born and to which it made its appeal? Southern reaction to Lincoln's election does, indeed, make little sense unless we understand the simple fact that the Republican victory meant Northern endorsement of certain attitudes basic in Republican thought and the increase of power to give concrete expression to them. And since the slaveholder and the institution of slavery played so large a part in the weakening of the old parties and in the creation of new ones, a brief look at some of the implicit assumptions long made in the region where the Republican Party flourished, and at recent developments which had again brought these assumptions to the surface, may help us with our problem. The region to be considered stretches from New England to Pennsylvania and spreads across upper New York and westward along the Great Lakes. The period of time is from 1815 onward. The attitudes to be noticed have to do largely with wealth, its creation and just distribution, and with sin and its eradication. In the year 1815, a new era opened for the whole Western world of which the United States was a part. The almost continuous state of war, which had involved all the nations of Europe for centuries, and which had embroiled the American people throughout colonial and early national days, came to a sudden end. For the next 100 years, there would be peace. True, there would be local struggles, but no more worldwide wars. 3 generations of fortunate men who lived about the Atlantic basin could center their thoughts and efforts undisturbed on peaceful endeavors. The matchless age which now began was characterized by the rapid accumulation and use of capital for economic ends, by a revolutionary technical advance based on the perfecting of the steam engine for industry and communication, by the intensification of national feelings and activities, and by the spread of a deep democratic humanitarian impulse. The fusing and maturing of these factors produced what we have called the modern world.